What's going on there, folks? Good afternoon. The Earthmaster here on this beautiful Monday, March 14th, 2022 date, about 2:30 p.m. California time here along the West Coast. Latest quake shows a 3.3 earthquake, down in the area of the Middle America Trench, it looks like. Let's go ahead and check out this activity on the latest map. Of course, then again, USGS not showing it, but actually it looks like they're kind of picking up some further activity here. Surprisingly, just off the coast of Costa Rica at 8.5 kilometers, at 3.3 is kicking up at. We've seen a lot of movement here along the North American plate and the Pacific plate boundary. That includes a good portion of Southern California. Look at this area down here. Seen a pretty good uptick in swarming overnight and this morning, and we got a couple different swarming sections here all around the southern segment of the San Andreas Fault. Now this one here, very capable and very dangerous of producing a about an 8.1 magnitude earthquake on this southern section, which we're still waiting on it. It's been many years, and this is the one that they're always talking about, the big one. So yeah, a couple swarms around it, including some activity down here in the Salton Sea area. This one here just shy of the San Andreas Fault here. A couple smaller earthquakes in the kind of like the middle of the Salton Sea area, 2.1 and a 0.9. And again, just off the San Andreas Fault zone by probably about a mile, the southern segment. Also another area down here just a little bit further south along the Brawley seismic zone, just to the south of the San Andreas Fault zone, seeing its own separate swarm here with a good handful of earthquakes there, 2.1, and a couple other smaller quakes. But overall, seismic activity here is definitely on the increase here in this area of the state. A couple other segments here, other swarms just off the San Jacinto Fault zone here, kind of between the Elsinore Fault zone and the San Jacinto Fault southern section of that zone. We're seeing a pretty good swarm of earthquake activity, including 19 earthquakes here within the last day. Most of this 2s, 1s. I don't see any major quakes going on here yet, but 2.2 looks to be the largest in this sequence of activity. Also a little bit of swarming up here north of Borrego Springs. Again on the San Jacinto Fault zone. It's a spider web of faults out here, folks, let me tell you. Again, some smaller microquakes up there. Also up here towards the northern end of the southern segment, if that makes sense. The southern segment of the San Andreas Fault begins right about here. So this is kind of why it's got me a little concerned here about this, the sleeping giant, the beast, if you will, the southern section of the San Andreas Fault, which hasn't seen a large quake in quite a while. We've seen, I'm not going to go through all the dates, but we've seen areas of the central and the northern segment of the San Andreas Fault in terms of recent history go, but it's been quite a while since we've seen a major rupture here along the southern end. So we're seeing a little swarming up here around the northern section of the southern segment, if that makes sense right there, kind of where this bend is in itself. 3.1 and a couple other smaller microquakes there within that area. This 3.1 pretty deep. And again, just right off the San Andreas Fault zone here, which is this red line. And it's definitely an eye-opener to see all these separate swarmings here today. Definitely something building up pretty nicely here in the area of Southern California. 0.8 at 5.6 kilometers for this little one outside of San Diego. And also, of course, yesterday we've seen some further movement, not shown up here on the USGS map, but a couple 4s here into the Gulf of Mexico region along the Imperial Fault here just south of the border as well. So be on alert, folks, for Southern California. North of there, though, it seems like north of the Garlock Fault zone, a little skimpy on earthquakes. But it seems like that always happens. We always have earthquake activity up here to the north, kind of increasing, and then down here in the south of the Garlock Fault zone, it gets quiet. So vice versa today. This area down here under the gun right now for activity. Not a whole lot going on throughout the eastern crest of the Sierra Nevada, or Nevada for that matter. Excuse me. Up here along the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault. Of course, yesterday we had that 4.1 come in. Let's go ahead and bring this back here. 7 days, all magnitudes. Most of this activity here within this little circle from yesterday. There's that 4.1 in the Pinnacles area, right smack dab on the San Andreas Fault, the creeping section. As you can see here, pretty good handful of earthquakes. Again, most of them from yesterday. We've seen a pretty good amount of aftershock activity overnight and this morning. Some 3s in there and some 2s and 1s following yesterday's 4.1 earthquake there on the San Andreas Fault. And just kind of an active day out here along the west coast, that's for sure. So movement up here into the north part of the region, just offshore, just off the coast of Eureka and the Petrolia area, 2.9 and a 1.9. Tremor activity. Go ahead and check out the tremor activity here real quick. The map did show from yesterday about 82 epicenters of tremor into the southern end of the Cascadia. Hence kind of why we're seeing some back building of further pressure up here along the locked area of the Cascadia subduction zone with these quakes just offshore, just shy of the region here. Oregon's pretty quiet. Pacific Northwest, not a whole lot going on. One little earthquake being reported here at Mount St. Helens, and some activity throughout the Idaho region that looks like along the Sawtooth Fault area. A couple 2s and some 1s kicking up there today. Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. I don't believe we have too much activity to chat about there, but I always do like to check the maps and see what we got going on there at the super volcano. And there's not a whole lot. Not looking at any type of swarming or any type of major earthquake activity at all. I don't see anything to take note here of the activity there in Wyoming. Or lack of activity, right? But man, look at Southern California. I just can't help but look at all these specific swarms here around at the northern end, and just kind of quiet here through the San Andreas Fault. It's been all too quiet. Way too quiet. Let's see, Texas, Oklahoma, a little bit of activity out here around Crowder. I thought that was Quinton out there. Okay, Quinton's right up over here to the east a little bit, 3.1. Seen some activity ramp up there today, and also around the New Madrid zone, kind of towards the southern end here in Arkansas, 1.1, and also up here towards the northern end, another 1.1. So a couple small earthquakes around the New Madrid zone today. There's the activity off the coast of Costa Rica. Remember, there's some further movement here shown up on the Earthquake 3D globe that gives the EMSC data a pretty good view. Not shown up here on the USGS map, but I'm really surprised they're reporting that 3.4. It's kind of cool. Hopefully they'll get into that. Puerto Rico area, not a whole lot going on. Southwest region still seeing some activity, but no major migration of movement. South America, same for that. A couple 4s into the subduction zone there. Kind of seen a halt here in the westward push that we were looking at yesterday. Hence the reason for the uptick here along the eastern part of the Pacific Plate and the North American boundary. Of course, you got the motion of the plates here towards the west in this area, and it kind of works its way up around the bend. We haven't seen any further subsequent large activity over here in these regions where we could possibly see it, considering all that activity yesterday with those 2 large 6-pointers there, one south of Philippines and one over here along the northern end of the Java Trench. There's quite a bit of large activity yesterday following that storm, the solar storm as well. But looking over here, there has been some aftershocks, but no major adjustment up here in this area where the pressure would migrate. Hence, if we got enough buildup in this region, a couple 4s around the Turkey area, and yeah, nothing major going on though. Let's see what do we got here. South Africa region seeing a 4.8. Also mid-Indian Ridge, a 4.9 out there as well. Atlantic Ocean, very quiet. Very quiet out there. Let's see here. Let's check out the solar weather, see if I know we've dropped off. I think we've peaked out and leveled off from yesterday's G2 storm. As you can see, we had a good portion of yesterday up there in the KP index of 6. We had a major crack in the Earth's magnetic field, which allowed the storm conditions to amplify, along with that CME that had hit this morning, yesterday morning, I should say. So looks like update: the prolonged period of moderate storming is over. The BZ component of the interplanetary magnetic field continues to point north, a condition that does not bode well for geomagnetic conditions. A minor G1 class storm watch remains in effect for the next 12 hours. But as you can see there on the map, conditions are calming down there with the green activity As far as solar flaring goes, looks about the same as yesterday, anywhere from a 75% chance for a C flare down to about 5% chance for an X flare from these sunspots, which are kind of decaying and looking a little wimpy and skimpy there on the Earth side of the sun. So not a whole lot there to look at here on the sun activity. So yeah, watch your West Coast pretty closely here, folks. It's just looking pretty active. I get a little nervous when we see all these swarming, all this swarming activity. Not only at the southern end here, but we also got it going on up here to the north. It's there. It's waiting. It's been building up. We've known about this for a long time, that this area is capable of producing that 8.1 magnitude earthquake on the southern branch or southern section of the San Andreas Fault. So it's just a matter of time. Will today be the day? Who knows? Definitely can't predict it, but when we see swarms around it and all like kind of just off of it and to the northern end and to the southern end, it's kind of got to look at things and think, wow, what's happening down here. A lot of pressure and build up in this region. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We will be back later on this evening unless something major happens. All right, guys, take care.